My name is Claire Monroe, and I was 38 years old when my cousins taped a handwritten sign to the laundry room door at our family lake cabin that said, "Claire's office, Family Maid Department." And everyone laughed while I was standing there holding the property tax bill that had kept that same cabin from falling into county delinquency. I can still smell the lake that evening, wet pine and charcoal smoke drifting through the open porch, sunscreen and beer, and the mildew from towels nobody ever remembered to hang up. The annual Monroe reunion was in full swing outside Madison, Wisconsin, with Derek flipping burgers by the fire pit like he owned the whole shoreline, Ashley arranging everyone for sunset photos, Aunt Karen telling the younger kids stories about how Grandpa Walter had built the cabin for all of us, and me standing in the doorway with 2 bags of groceries, a folder of repair receipts, and an old wooden cabin key in my pocket that my grandfather had given me when I was 16. I had driven 3 hours after work, stopped for propane, replaced the smoke detector batteries, checked the septic notice in the mail, and cleaned mouse droppings from the pantry before anyone else arrived. Then I walked into the laundry room to start a load of towels and saw the sign. Derek laughed first. Ashley recorded it on her phone. Aunt Karen shook her head like I was supposed to enjoy being humiliated because families call cruelty teasing when the right person is the target. Derek lifted his beer and said, "Claire, don't act important. You're the only one without kids, so cleaning the cabin is basically your family contribution." Ashley added, "You don't make memories here. You just count towels and ruin the fun." Before I tell you how I walked into a county zoning meeting 6 days later with the rental permit, booking screenshots, payout records, property tax receipts, insurance documents, and a neighbor's statement proving my cousins had been secretly renting out the cabin while calling me the family maid, tell me this. What time is it where you are right now? And where are you watching from? I want to know how far this story travels before I tell you what happens when a family says a cabin belongs to everyone until money starts coming in. Then somehow, the payouts belong to the loudest cousin, and the bills belong to the woman they mocked beside the laundry room door. Because that sign was not the beginning. It was only the first time they put a label on the role they had been giving me for years. The cabin sat on Lake Kagansa, small, weathered, and stubborn in the way old family properties can be when nobody wants to admit how expensive nostalgia becomes. My grandfather Walter bought the place before I was born, back when that stretch of lake still had more fishing boats than luxury remodels. He was not wealthy, but he was careful. He fixed things before they failed, labeled breakers, wrote down maintenance dates in a green spiral notebook, and kept spare keys in places only responsible people knew. When I was little, the cabin felt like magic. Mornings with fog over the water, card games during storms, Grandpa frying bluegill in an old cast-iron skillet. But as I got older, I started seeing what held the magic up. Gutters cleaned before winter, water lines shut off before the freeze, septic inspections, dock boards replaced, insurance premiums paid, property taxes watched, mouse traps checked, locks changed when cousins lost keys. Grandpa used to say, "Family memories rot fast when nobody wants to repair the roof." The other kids laughed when he said things like that because they wanted bonfires and tubing and late-night stories. I listened because I was the kind of girl who noticed when adults looked tired after opening envelopes. Derek was my cousin, 2 years older, loud, charming, and always surrounded by applause he did not earn. He was Aunt Karen's favorite nephew, the boy who brought life to the cabin because he could start a fire, tell a story, and make everyone forget he had left garbage bags outside for raccoons the night before. Ashley was his younger sister, stylish and sharp, always holding a phone, always creating the family image that other people paid to maintain. I was the practical unmarried niece. That was my official family role long before anyone said it. I remembered bills. I checked locks. I cleaned refrigerators. I paid small balances before they became large problems. I worked as a property compliance consultant, so I understood permits, insurance exposure, rental liability, occupancy rules, zoning letters, and the kind of quiet legal trouble people create when they treat property like a family playground instead of a documented asset. My expertise was useful when Aunt Karen received county notices. It was annoying when I asked who was going to reimburse the septic inspection. It was heroic when I caught an insurance lapse. It was controlling when I said nobody should use the dock until the loose boards were fixed. That was how the Monroes worked. The same skill could be devotion or nagging, depending on whether it cost them money. Grandpa Walter had known. When I was 16, after a storm knocked a branch through the boathouse roof, I stayed with him for an entire weekend patching, sweeping, hauling boards, and helping him update the maintenance notebook. Derek and Ashley came up for one afternoon, took pictures on the dock, complained there was no good soda, and left before dark. Grandpa watched their car pull away, then handed me the old wooden cabin key with a brass tag worn almost smooth. "This place survives because someone always comes back to check the doors," he said. I told him that sounded lonely. He smiled and said, "Sometimes love is lonely before people learn to respect it." I kept the key. After he died, that sentence stayed with me longer than the sound of the funeral hymns. The will left the cabin technically shared among several family branches, but in practice, Aunt Karen treated herself as matriarch, Derek as future keeper, Ashley as image manager, and me as unpaid maintenance. The ownership was messy enough to create confusion and clear enough that no single cousin had authority to profit from it without permission. Grandpa had listed me as the property contact for county notices during the last years of his life because I was the only one who answered mail. That detail became the seed of my later leverage, though at the time it only meant I got every boring envelope nobody else wanted. At 31, I paid a surprise property tax balance after Aunt Karen swore everyone would contribute. The county notice had come after a mailing address confusion, and I knew the penalties would start stacking. Derek promised to send his share after payroll. Ashley said she had just paid for family photos and was tapped out. Aunt Karen said she would collect from everyone after the reunion. I paid because I was terrified of Grandpa's cabin being dragged into delinquency over family laziness. Months later, at Christmas, Derek told relatives he had saved the cabin from being sold by getting everyone organized. I nearly dropped my coffee. Aunt Karen smiled proudly at him. Ashley posted a throwback photo with the caption, "Derek keeping Grandpa's legacy alive." I said nothing because I was younger then, and because the family had trained me to believe correcting a lie made me unpleasant, while letting it stand made me gracious. The same pattern repeated for years. A utility gap here, storm repair there, dock boards, septic report, insurance premium, winterization, cleaning supplies, lock changes. I kept receipts because property compliance had taught me that memory is not evidence. Derek kept stories. Ashley kept photos. Aunt Karen kept nostalgia. I kept the place from becoming a liability. Then something changed. About a year before the laundry room sign, the cabin started looking different when I arrived. Towels I did not recognize. A strange set of coffee mugs. Guest shampoo in the bathroom. New throw pillows arranged like a magazine photo. A little sign by the kitchen sink that said, "Please wash your dishes before checkout." I asked Ashley about it. She laughed and said she had made the sign for family weekends because people were messy. Derek said a few friends had used the cabin and left some things behind. Aunt Karen said, "Don't be so suspicious. It is good that people enjoy the place." But I had worked with enough short-term rental compliance cases to know what a checkout sign looked like. I checked the trash and found a printed parking instruction sheet with no family name on it. I found a guest review card tucked behind the microwave. I found the Wi-Fi password taped inside a cabinet in Ashley's handwriting. I asked directly in the family group chat whether anyone had listed the cabin online. Derek responded with a laughing emoji. Ashley said, "Claire, not everything is a zoning violation." Aunt Karen wrote, "The cabin belongs to all of us. Stop policing joy." That sentence was designed to make me sound ridiculous if I kept pushing. So I documented quietly. Photos, dates, items found, utility spikes, cleaning expenses, neighbor comments. Mr. Donnelly, the retired teacher who lived 2 cabins down, called me one afternoon and said, "Claire, do you know there are strangers coming in and out most weekends now?" My stomach dropped. I asked him to write down dates if he noticed more. He said he already had. "Your grandpa would want someone keeping track," he told me. I almost cried right there in my car. The reunion happened 3 weeks later. Aunt Karen wanted everyone present because she said the cabin needed a joyful reset. That meant she wanted me to stop asking questions. I arrived early as usual because somebody had to. The refrigerator had old food in it. The trash bins were full. The dock ladder was loose. A county envelope sat unopened on the counter. I cleaned, checked, bought supplies, and opened the envelope. It was a short-term rental permit renewal notice with my name listed as the property contact. My name. Not Derek, not Ashley. Mine. The permit file referenced a short-term rental license connected to the cabin address. My chest tightened. I had never applied for a rental permit. I had never approved a rental listing. I had never received rental income. I folded the notice and slid it into my folder. I did not confront them immediately because people show more when they think you know less. Then they arrived. Derek with his wife and kids, Ashley with coolers and a tripod, Aunt Karen with pies and speeches about family. By sunset, the cabin was full of laughter, smoke, and the old performance of togetherness. That was when I saw the sign on the laundry room door. Claire's office, Family Maid department. I stood there while they laughed, and something in me moved from suspicion to decision. I took one photo of the sign before Ashley could remove it. Then I started watching more carefully. Derek joked about me counting towels. Ashley joked that I should invoice the family for vibes management. Aunt Karen told the kids, "Claire keeps us all organized," in the tone people use when they mean uptight. Later, by the bonfire, Derek gave a little toast about Grandpa's cabin staying alive because we all bring something to it. He looked at his children and said, "This place is for memories, not paperwork." Everyone clapped. I looked at the unopened permit notice in my folder and thought, family memories do not pay property taxes. That night, after everyone went to sleep, I sat at the kitchen table with Grandpa's wooden key, his old maintenance notebook, the county notice, and the property tax receipts. In the notebook, his handwriting still leaned right, steady and clean. On one page from years earlier, he had written, "A cabin is not kept by the loudest laugh at the bonfire. It is kept by the person who comes back after the storm." I read that line 3 times. It felt like permission. The next morning, before anyone else woke, I searched short-term rental platforms using the cabin's lake view, nearby landmarks, and Ashley's photo style. I found it in 8 minutes. Charming family lake retreat near Madison. 42 reviews. Weekend rates higher than I expected. Professional-looking photos. Rules copied almost word for word from the sign by the sink. Hosted under Ashley's first name. Payouts likely routed to her account. The description said, "Our family has lovingly restored this cabin for guests to enjoy." Lovingly restored. I clicked through the calendar and saw booked weekends, including ones when Aunt Karen had told me not to come because the family needed rest. I took screenshots of everything. listing photos, reviews, booking calendar, house rules, cleaning fees, extra guest fees, payout references from a guest review mentioning Ashley by name. Then I looked at the tax receipts I had paid, the insurance documents in my folder, and the county permit with my name in the file. They had been making money from the cabin while I was paying the costs and absorbing the liability. The reunion ended with Derek asking me to stay behind and clean because we have to get the kids back for school. Ashley left 3 bags of towels by the laundry room. Aunt Karen kissed my cheek and said, "Don't take the sign personally. We tease because we love." I smiled just enough to let her leave without suspicion. Then I took more photos. Dirty towels, full trash, guest supplies, checkout notes, the sign, the permit notice, the old key. On the drive home, Derek called to ask if I could pay the insurance renewal before the deadline because the cabin account was low. The cabin account. I asked how much rental income had gone into it. Silence. Then he laughed too loudly and said, "Here we go." I hung up. The next morning, I called Aaron Blake, the county zoning officer listed on the permit notice. Aaron had grown up near the lake and had known Grandpa Walter years earlier. She remembered me. When I explained that my name appeared on a short-term rental permit file I had not authorized, her voice changed from friendly to formal. "Claire, you need to send me a written statement," she said. "And if there is an online listing operating under disputed authority, we need to review occupancy, ownership consent, insurance, and tax reporting." I asked if the permit had been renewed recently. She said a renewal attempt had been submitted with my name as property contact and family authorization attached, but the file had flagged because signatures did not match the prior property contact record. I sat very still. They had tried to use my role as property contact to legitimize a rental operation I had never approved. Aaron sent me the file. I saw Ashley's email, Derek's phone number, my name, Grandpa's old property contact designation, a vague statement that all family stakeholders support continued rental use. Continued. Support. Rental use. I had supported repairs. I had supported insurance. I had supported taxes. I had never supported turning the cabin into hidden income. I spent the next 2 days building the file. Rental listing screenshots, payout clues, guest reviews, county permit notice, insurance declarations, property tax records, utility payments, repair invoices, septic report, cleaning receipts, group texts, Mr. Donnelly's neighbor statement, Grandpa's notebook, laundry room sign photo. Then I notified the rental platform that the listing was unauthorized and operating under disputed property authority. I asked the county for a compliance review. I updated the insurance carrier that the property may have been used as a short-term rental without proper disclosure. I stopped paying shared property bills without written cost sharing. 1 set of notices, 1 boundary, 1 old wooden key beside the first honest record in a family story built on lake fog and free labor. At 10:18 p.m., Derek called. He did not say hello. "What did you tell the county?" His voice was sharp, stripped of bonfire charm. I put him on speaker because I had already told Aaron I was documenting all contact. I told them I did not authorize rental operations. Silence. Then Derek said, "Claire, the holiday booking payout hits in 72 hours. We needed the permit cleared before then." There it was. Panic confession. Payout. Permit. Deadline. I wrote it down while he kept talking. Ashley grabbed the phone next. "You are insane. It was just a few guests." 42 reviews is not a few guests. She went quiet for half a second, then said, "You've been stalking us?" Aunt Karen came on next, which meant they were all together. Claire, do not ruin Grandpa's cabin over paperwork. Grandpa's cabin is exactly why I'm doing this. Karen's voice hardened. Derek's children deserve lake memories. You wouldn't understand that because you don't have children. There it was again, the family's favorite moral shortcut. Children as shield. My singleness as permission. I said, Derek's children do not need hidden rental income and invalid insurance to make memories. Ashley said I was jealous because Derek made the cabin successful. I looked at the stack of tax receipts and laughed once. The cabin was successful enough for you to profit from because I kept it insurable. Derek called me dramatic. Karen called me bitter. I gave them 72 hours. Disclose all rental income, remove unauthorized listings, reimburse taxes, insurance, repairs, and cleaning costs, correct the family story, sign a formal cabin use and cost-sharing agreement. No future rentals without written authorization, proper insurance, tax reporting, and county compliance. Derek said, You always have to count everything. I said, If I only count towels, then stop counting on my card for the roof. Then I hung up. The smear campaign began by breakfast. Aunt Karen posted in the family group that some people turn family memories into legal threats and forget what the cabin means to children. Ashley texted cousins that I was trying to destroy the cabin because I couldn't stand Derek having a family to enjoy it. Derek called 2 uncles and said I had reported the cabin to the county out of jealousy. I saved everything. Still, I almost softened that afternoon. That is the part nobody wants to admit. Even when you have records, guilt can still sound like a child laughing on a dock. I thought about Derek's kids catching frogs by the shore. I thought about Grandpa teaching us to tie knots. I thought about Aunt Karen crying if the county issued fines. I thought about the family saying I was the one who ruined the cabin. Then Mr. Donnelly emailed me his statement. He had listed dates, car plates, guest counts, late-night noise, trash overflow, and one incident where strangers tried to access his dock by mistake. At the bottom, he wrote, Your grandfather trusted you because you understood that a cabin is still a responsibility when no one is watching. That steadied me. Responsibility when no one is watching. That was the entire story. The private truth room happened at my kitchen table 2 nights later. Derek came in first, angry and overconfident. Ashley arrived with her laptop and the tight face of someone who had spent the day deleting things. Aunt Karen came with family outrage already polished. Aaron joined by speakerphone for a short compliance clarification. On my table were the wooden key, tax receipts, insurance documents, dock repair invoices, rental listing screenshots, platform reviews, county permit file, Ashley's payout references, the laundry room sign photo, Mr. Donnelly's statement, and Grandpa's maintenance notebook. Derek looked at the table and said, This is obsessive. No, I said. This is what kept the cabin open while you monetized it. Ashley rolled her eyes. We used the money for maintenance. I placed my repair receipts beside the listing screenshots. Then why did I pay the maintenance? Aunt Karen said, Everyone contributes differently. Yes, I said. I contributed money and labor. Derek contributed hidden bookings. Ashley contributed a listing. You contributed excuses. Derek's face reddened. We brought life back to the cabin. I picked up the laundry room sign photo. You called me the family maid in the same house you were renting to strangers. Ashley tried to minimize. It was a joke. So were the towels I cleaned after your guests. Erin's voice came through the speaker, calm and official. She explained that short-term rentals required proper authorization, accurate permit filings, occupancy compliance, lodging tax attention, and insurance alignment. Derek said, It's a family cabin. Erin replied, family ownership does not exempt a paid rental from regulation. That sentence bothered them more than anything I said because it came from someone they could not call sensitive. Then I opened Grandpa's notebook and read his line aloud. A cabin is not kept by the loudest laugh at the bonfire. It is kept by the person who comes back after the storm. Aunt Karen looked away. She had loved her father enough for that to hurt, even if not enough to behave honestly. I laid out my terms again. Full income disclosure, reimbursement, listing removal, written agreement, no retroactive permission without accounting. Ashley said, "If you make us disclose everything, Derek could owe taxes." Then Derek should have thought about taxes before collecting payouts. Derek slammed his hand on the table. "You're ruining something that was finally working." I looked at him and said, "It was working because you made me the cost center and yourself the profit center." The county zoning and insurance compliance meeting happened 3 days later in a small municipal conference room that smelled like paper, coffee, and consequences. Present were me, Derek, Ashley, Aunt Karen, Aaron, an insurance adjuster named Mark Feld, a platform compliance representative by video, and Mr. Donnelly as a neighbor witness. Derek arrived in a button-down shirt like charm could be business casual enough to pass inspection. Ashley looked exhausted, probably from trying to scrub the internet. Aunt Karen carried tissues. I carried records. Aaron opened by confirming the permit file showed my name as property contact and that a renewal attempt had been made without clear authorization from all relevant family stakeholders. The platform representative confirmed the listing had been frozen pending ownership and authorization review. Ashley immediately said the listing had only been used occasionally for friends of the family. The platform representative calmly stated there were 42 completed guest reviews and multiple paid bookings through the platform. Ashley stopped speaking. Mark, the insurance adjuster, reviewed the policy and explained that undisclosed short-term rental activity could create serious coverage complications if a guest had been injured, the dock had failed, or property damage occurred. Derek tried to say there had been no major incidents. Mr. Donnelly cleared his throat and described guests wandering onto his dock, trash overflow, and a group of renters trying to light a fire during a local burn restriction. Aunt Karen whispered, "Oh my God," like danger had only become real once spoken by a neighbor. Then came the face-slap-proof moment. Derek said, "Claire only cleaned and complained." I placed the rental payout screenshots beside the property tax receipts, insurance payment records, dock repair invoices, and the photo of the laundry room sign. "They called me the Family Maid," I said, then panicked when the rental permit had my name. The room went silent. Not because it was dramatic, because every document on the table made the sentence impossible to dismiss. Aaron confirmed the county would require correction of the permit file, suspension of rental operations until proper authorization and compliance were established, and review of occupancy and tax issues. The platform froze pending payouts. The insurance carrier required a coverage review. Derek had to disclose rental income for accounting against property expenses. Ashley lost platform access until authority was resolved. Aunt Karen's family memory narrative collapsed under the basic question of why family memories had been sold to strangers without telling the relative paying the bills. The consequences landed exactly where they needed to. Unauthorized listing removed. Payouts frozen pending accounting. Derek required to apply hidden income toward taxes, insurance, repairs, and compliance costs. Ashley's account reviewed. All future cabin use required written scheduling, cost sharing, cleaning responsibilities, occupancy limits, and no paid rental activity without proper written consent from the family stakeholders and verified insurance. Derek's holiday payout died in the platform review. Ashley's social media reel about saving Grandpa's cabin disappeared before she posted it. Aunt Karen cried in the parking lot and said, "You made us look like thieves." I looked at the old wooden key in my hand. No, I stopped letting you look like caretakers. Derek muttered that I would always be miserable because I didn't have a family of my own. That used to hurt. This time, it sounded like a man trying to find a weapon after losing the documents. "I had a family," I said. "They just mistook me for maintenance." He had no answer. Over the next month, the cabin changed in ways that were uncomfortable and necessary. The family cost-sharing agreement went out. Some relatives complained. Some paid. Some admitted they had assumed Derek was covering bills because he talked like he did. Aunt Karen had to send a correction to the group, explaining that no rental income would be used privately and all future cabin expenses would be shared transparently. She did not apologize, but correction is sometimes the first form of truth people can manage. Derek and Ashley returned several payouts to the cabin account after accounting review. The insurance carrier adjusted the policy. Aaron closed the first phase of the compliance issue without the harshest penalties because I had acted quickly and documented non-consent. Mr. Donnelly brought me tomatoes from his garden the next time I went up to the lake. He stood on the porch and said, "Your grandpa would be proud you protected the place, not the story." That meant more than any apology the family never gave. I still went to the cabin. That surprised people. They thought enforcing boundaries meant I hated the place. It was the opposite. I loved it enough to stop letting it become a secret business with a nostalgia label slapped on top. I cleaned less after that because cleaning became scheduled and shared. I paid nothing without written contribution. I kept the old key, but I changed the locks through proper agreement. The first weekend I spent there alone after the meeting, I sat on the dock at dawn with Grandpa's notebook in my lap. The water was gray and still. The cabin behind me looked tired, honest, and mine in a way that did not mean ownership so much as stewardship. I read his stormline again and finally understood something. Coming back after the storm did not mean letting people leave every storm for me. It meant knowing when to board up the windows, lock the doors, and tell the people who loved the view that the roof had a cost. Aaron later asked if I would speak at a homeowner's legal aid workshop about family properties and unauthorized short-term rentals. At first, I said no. I did not want to be the cousin who got called the family maid and reported the cabin. Aaron said, "Then don't teach the insult, teach the risk." So we created the Wooden Key Rental Boundary Guide with a local homeowner's legal aid nonprofit. It started as one workshop and turned into a series because apparently family cabins, inherited houses, shared lake places, and old vacation homes create the same trap everywhere. One person pays, another person profits. Everyone says memories until someone asks about insurance. We taught women and quiet caretakers how to check short-term rental permits, protect inherited properties, document repairs, prevent unauthorized listings, understand lodging taxes, review insurance coverage, set cost-sharing agreements, and stop being unpaid maintenance for family assets that other people monetize. The first line of the guide was Grandpa's. A cabin is not kept by the loudest laugh at the bonfire. It is kept by the person who comes back after the storm. The second was mine. Family memories do not pay property taxes. At the first workshop, I placed the old wooden key on the table. A woman in the front row started laughing before she started crying. Her brothers had been using their mother's beach cottage for friends while she paid utilities. Another woman said her cousins listed a hunting cabin online and left her husband to fix damage before family holidays. A retired teacher said her nephew called her controlling for asking who had paid for the new dock after he hosted bachelor weekends there for cash. We gave them scripts. No paid rental without written permission. Who receives the payouts? Does the insurance cover guest use? If everyone owns memories, everyone shares expenses. Do not call me controlling for protecting the property you profit from. Simple sentences. Hard sentences. Sentences that make hidden money step into daylight. The real revenge was not Derek losing the holiday payout or Ashley losing platform access, though I won't pretend those things did not feel deserved. The real revenge was making the family understand that nostalgia is not a business plan, and a woman's unpaid labor is not a subsidy for someone else's side income. It was protecting Grandpa's cabin from becoming a liability wrapped in filtered photos. It was teaching other women that they are allowed to love a family place without becoming its maid, bank, insurance department, and scapegoat. I still keep the wooden key hanging beside my desk. Sometimes before a workshop, I hold it and remember the laundry room sign, Derek's beer-raised laugh, Ashley's phone recording, Aunt Karen's soft cruelty, and the smell of dirty towels in a place my money had kept standing. Then I remember the county room, Aaron's steady voice, the payout records, the frozen listing, Mr. Donnelly naming the truth, and the moment my cousins learned that the woman they mocked for checking doors was the one person whose name could close them. A family that calls you selfish for exposing hidden rental income does not want memories. It wants your labor, your card, and your silence while someone else collects the payout. If your family called you the maid while using your name to keep their secret rental alive, would you still call that tradition? And if the old wooden key that once opened your grandfather's cabin became the tool you used to teach others that family memories are worth protecting, but not worth being exploited for, would you hang it quietly by the door? Or would you place it on the table and make every payout answer for itself?